So when we have all this battle, the scramble, I think the scramble for Africa is still there. That's also what's causing the slow development that is there. We should be developing at a faster rate, but the slow development is caused by two things. There's influence of Western powers and also the leadership. There's greed that is also among the leadership that is there. They want to create wealth and all that, and to get compromise, integrity, degrading the whole development.
Yeah, so totally get. Now back to our conversation. We had diverged a bit.
We had digressed a bit.
Back to our conversation. If as we started, then what are some of the benefits? We're so much heavy on the criticism. What are some of the benefits that the whole labor mobility brings to beyond just the transfer of skills and knowledge?
Okay, so beyond the transfer of skills, I think diversity is very important. When we have diversification of skills, when I understand what this country is good at, we can go there and learn from them. They can come here and learn from us, exchange of cultures, and just exploration to some extent is something of benefit. If you're not talking about general economic benefit. But if we're going back to economics, I think that exchange of value is very important. Sometimes, even if we go to, before even the European nations came, or even colonization, we still had trade. And the only way we had trade is because you had something I don't have and I had something you don't have. And I think the whole human species, the whole human race is built on not independence but interdependence in some extent. If that is to go back.
Yeah, maybe he can
so maybe they can also give us
the benefits that give us. For example, we are just focusing on the informal and now I want to go much on informal. So what I'll just say, I'll second what learning different cultures, most experience, and also start thinking different. When you go somewhere and you see what they are doing, you can pick that idea and come back to it and start it. But two, when you have more experience, there are things that your environment will tell you which you not buy. Okay? Because people will talk around you because of less experience. And now you have worked and see them for yourself. Then you will say, if we start this way, then we'll most probably end something. So the goal is very obvious. But now to them, they don't see the end goal. Okay? So those are the benefits that I can talk about.
Allow me at this point to quickly take the conversation which been so much focused on the local context. Let us climb a ladder higher, now move to the international market, but still focused on us as East Africa. It is often said, I don't know how true is it, I've yet to board a plane, hopefully. Yeah. But it is often said that in the international departure, 7 out of 10 people living out of the country, they are usually headed to the Middle East.
7 out of 10.
Yeah, the casual. 7 out of 10. It's a statistic. It's debatable. If not the Middle East, they are heading for scholarship the Western world. Now, narrowing that statistics to our conversation, after they've gone there, completely but more often than not, we hear of places that are very depressing. Some are isolated in the embassies. They are treated not as human beings. Yeah, in manners. Isolated cases. But now my question is, what can the government do to strengthen the dignity of these people? Because they have gone there to do their labor. With that, I've forgotten the name, the money that they send back to the country, which contributes. The last time I checked, it was in billions. Yeah, it plays a big role in steering the economy. So the government surely has a lot to do. Because I'll come back to the question. Because here at the recruitment agencies, they do this with the backing of individuals in and out of the government. So back to the question, the government surely has a role to play. Now you as them, what do you think the government can do to fine-tune that the process is streamlined and the lives of these people are even in the foreign market?
So I think that the government has a priority. It has definitely have a role to play because one is a Kenyan, and a Kenyan, fine Kenyan in general. One is a citizen here. And also, these are also just they are Kenyans to some extent also very productive. As you mentioned, they get this foreign revenue that now comes in, spurs the economy generally in terms of boosting our production and our productivity. So, if I look at what is the role of the government investments, we have foreign affairs department. Yeah. So we have foreign affairs department, which is supposed to look at the laws that are safeguarding these Kenyans going to work outside. The reason we have this foreign affairs, we have like ambassadors who are going to this country, either Middle Eastern countries, either Western countries. We have ambassadors. We have even the president recently has been accused of traveling along this country. Well, the travel can be done. The travel is to negotiate on behalf of these countries that we are bringing this workforce, that they are supposed to be treated with dignity as Kenyans that are providing the services that are essential to this country that they are taking. So that's supposed to be observed, that as they go there, even if they are working either formal or informal, their rights still remains protected. There's a policy that I think that, as much as the Western policy, look at America. If you harm an American, even if it's in Kenya, they will react. They don't take it lightly. An American is an American. When you harm one of them, you are affected. We should have such kind of a mindset with policy when it comes to them. To some extent, we don't value this one. If we are just looking at that, we are benefiting, because sometimes these Kenyans, they go out there out of desperation, out of the fact that the opportunity that they are looking for are not in their country. And they go out there, they want to make Kenya a better place, because they are working, they are sending this revenue back to their country, they are building, they are doing investments back to their country, they are making Kenya better. So, to some extent, we just look at, the government has mostly been looking at it from the point of how they can gain more. How can they drive more revenue? How can they push more workers to go and work out abroad? But they don't look at these labor force that they are pushing abroad. They are seeking these opportunities. Are they protected? Are their rights catered for? Are they treated with dignity? So that's an edge that they are missing. They might have been working in gospel looking for opportunity, but other than just looking for opportunity, you have to also make sure that they are dignified. So laws around that have been, to a certain extent, because I've heard of Kenyans going to like recently we've had issues like the Russian-Ukraine war that has been happening. There are Kenyans who are getting recruited with some malicious agencies that they are going to work abroad. You're told you're going to work in this kind of sector, this kind of sector. Some maybe genuinely know what they're going to do, but some don't know. But you go there thinking that you're going to work for a firm, going to work for a company, but you end up being a soldier, supposed to be a soldier. that one, I think it's kind of a malicious attempt, or to some extent, a way that ideally dehumanizes the Kenyans of their own rights. So if we have those kind of protections that are around that we protect the Kenyans, we get to tell if the opportunity is about a military, someone gets to understand the risks that are involved in this work. Because there are people who want to go, you are allowed to go and work as a military, but you are supposed to be fully informed of the risk that you're taking up. Because with the risks that are coming up, there's also opportunity that comes up. With the high risk, those can get also make money of it. But you find that Kenyans go there, they are kind of, for lack of a better word, they are coined into this job that they don't understand. They just get to understand the nature of these jobs once they get there. So we need to protect Kenyans. We need to have structures. We need to have laws that these Kenyans can say, when it gets to this one, they can revoke even the employment and get back. They can also get their way back. Okay. For some of them, the risks that are involved, even if you decide you've gone to this country, you've started working, but you don't see a way of protection that your country can say. You can go to your embassy and say, I have disagreed with my employer and I want to go back to the country. Some of them don't even have the facilitation to go back to their country. They can't even get back there. They have to work to get the money to come back to their country. So those kind of protections makes that person that when they are going to work in this country, they are going from a stable point. They are going with some kind of grounding that their country is back. Yeah, so that's what I think.
Before I break, we can see still on the same question. And again, statistics, from what you see, the current state is protection. Needs to protect, because that is protecting the interests, property, life, and citizens. To the statistics, the 7 out of 10 people, most of them usually take care of the other sides, whether the Eastern Asian sides, courtesy of agencies. That's the benefit. And as I earlier said, these agencies have the benefit of and most often than not, the agencies are usually not straightforward. Not being straightforward. For example, once they get in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, they will hold you as good, which now brings me back to the options. It becomes too hard for you now to come back to your country because you don't have a passport. Again, just trying to say, does the government truly, as a whole, take these agencies? Basically, we know they ought to do that, but do they really do that?
Well, you see, what I'm trying to refrain from is kind of looking at if the government is not doing the right job as part. I'll say this. That for you to go from, or rather to fly from Kenya to other country for work, remember, it's an individual choice. The same government gave you the country, but please go and look for work and work. Okay? The way they have, rather the way they structure their system as agencies, even after Kenyans knowing that there is a red flag from point A to point B, okay? Because we still find that we are talking about this topic, other Kenyans are still busy applying for those jobs as of now. Same agencies keeping promoting them every now and then. So you can see that there is a level of illiteracy somewhere, or just carelessness. Somebody might think that, how does this other country look like? What if I just go there and step, then just start doing my own things? Okay? Like my own things to mean that I can now grow myself now that I'm in another part of country, there are opportunities like this. Okay? So people do, most of the things that I see is that what normally run on the psychology of people when they go there is not go and do that. They just want a way to land into those countries. Then quit from that job, look for another job. That's why you will see most of those people who cry online are ladies. Either that, because they know they have certain value. Okay? If they leave that job, they can also do other business. Okay? So what I'm saying is, because we are not only exporting unprofessional job, but we also have professional jobs. Why are not these people complaining? In professionalism, you will not find a teacher in America somewhere crying that I came here to teach. They have denied me to teach, and now they are doing for me ABC, even if there are a few, but at least what we know, that we have not had cases of professional jobs or people crying anyhow, like these people in Saudi Arabia or the Middle East. What I'll say is this. I'll now come to my profession, right? And say let us read the contract. Those people who are going in the Middle East, let them understand whether they agree to it or not. That is their sole decision. That's why you can see the government cannot get it. But then if the government try to get it, there's still some gap because they had signed their passport has been retained. The employer needs their money. A contract is a contract. You cannot just breach the contract and then leave and go do your own things the way you want. Because remember, this money has been paid maybe prior before you came in there. So there has to be some compensation for the employer, because one of these cases you will realize that the only way that these people are held somewhere in a cell or somewhere constrained is because the employer is demanding A, B, C, which this person is not still having. Get the point? Now the procedure which whereby now they are looking for this money to pay back to the employer is when this ladies cause this mayhem and struggle.
But there's also another side of it. We are talking about the side that is of due diligence for the person seeking the opportunity. But also see, like right now, if you ask any average guy who's a professional, you want to work, let's say, is the process one? Is it streamlined? Because streamlined process is very obvious. Like right now, if you want to get your ID, let's say for instance, you want to get your ID, you know you have to go maybe to an Huduma center, take your fingerprints, and then you get your ID. Wait for some time to get your ID. I think also that to some extent, when it comes to information gathering, how you move from Kenya to work abroad, one, there has to be a streamlined process. If I'm a professional, have a specific profession, let's say it's teaching, there has to be a formal procedure. One, let's say you have to have, let's say, the TSC number in Kenya and all those type of information. You have your own formal documents, that's what you have studied in this country. Then you apply for what is relevant for you to work in the other country. Then also the standard procedure now there's a passport. You have the required passport. You have the required yearly documents that are there. They're supposed to be stipulated clearly. So that now when you're moving, you can get through. The reason why these agencies that you're talking about are stealing from Kenyans, stealing from this place, because the information is blurred. It's here, it's neither here nor there. It depends on whether the agency I meet, I can trust them. It depends on their track record in terms of how many people they are. Normally the agency say, okay, so we have taken 200 people or 300 people abroad and they are working there successfully. What if the last 200 they want to steal from them? Can I rely on you because you have worked the last one? We have to have a specific document that we have to have a point of reference of saying this is the law. I can take an agency to court saying this is the law. I went to work for Saudi Arabia, this was my compensation, this was the, and even the contracts, as after work, that's why we see, we're talking about the stipulations, there has to be agreements between these countries. Because every employer works within a specific jurisdiction. Hello, Charles. Just a moment, I'm calling. So what I was saying is that we need to have like a stipulation. There has to be agreements between these governments. The government in Saudi Arabia, the government. That's why we have the foreign affairs. We have the ambassador. So once we agree and say we have an exchange of labor, because we talk about labor and made a mistake. There's exchange of labor. What Kenyans need, we can go and work in this. And probably there are even people from Saudi Arabia, as much as might not be often, they come and do business even in Kenya. Because you mentioned about minerals and all that. You might be interested in things like that. So they might come to do business in Kenya. But what are the terms of engagement? And what is allowable for an employer in this Middle Eastern countries or Western countries to get to stipulate for a Kenyan coming to work in America or coming to work in Middle East or coming to work in the US. So there has to be those kind of agreements. Then there has to be the due diligence now that is followed by the citizen who's going to work this, so that they don't get to break the law. Because the law can't go through it. If you break the same law, it cannot be able to protect you. So,
I have a contract which belongs in this case, for example, when the first of all people want to go to a specific country, I'm learning to know how to read a contract. I've done my due diligence. I've heard from a person I know, and I went to the same procedure. I know from the contract I'm going to be a driver in that country. That's what I know.
yeah.
But going there,
You end up being a soldier.
not even as not even as like totally what I get to do there is totally different from what I anticipated. So it's not a matter of literacy and so it's all a matter of you as a person having that hindsight that the government is there to protect you. Even when you're there, you can go to the embassy. This is not what I signed. I want to go back to the country, but the country does not.
But the question I'll ask you, if an American goes to an American embassy, that there is someone who's breaking the law of their side, they will take it seriously. You ask yourself, unless it becomes a crisis, because there are people who go to those states or those countries, they don't want a specific wage, and they come back into bodies. So my question is, do you think that if to some extent, if these guys do you think the government is that concerned that in all such cases they'll get to protect you? That's also another thing. Do you think they're really concerned? They will protect them?
See, okay, let me say this. This is what these people do most of the time. That maybe partner. They ask you to pay for your visa to and fro. Okay? The flow remains with the embassy.
Just the one fact. You're meaning the visa or the air tickets?
Is the air ticket or the
In
visa?
the air ticket.
Yeah, the air ticket.
The air ticket, yes. So the air ticket to and fro. So the ones who go together for such like the emergency. Because if I know that there are those three areas, then I need to pay for my phone. Okay. So all this government, government is there. Government has the structure. But now it will not come and say, now you came here, you did not stay, you are back from, now we are in a bad position, we have to pay for your own mess. Okay? So people should think and say, I'm going there. Okay? And ask the agency, what if even I have a need that I have to come back home? I don't have money by that time. You need my money for me to go there. So once you start asking such questions, then you will now see how the agencies respond to you, and you will be able to gauge whether this is fake
Make a judgment.
or legal.
Okay.
So before Manila, I think the rallying call to the government is for them to structure, be responsive to the needs of the citizens, and the role of a citizen here about be well informed.
To me, I think that maybe there might be structures, but the implementation, maybe they need much more government.
Number three, the issue here about the festive issue. Currently, there are more than 3 agencies that exist focused on this. Primarily, we have the National Employment Authority.
National
Employment Authority, which details the job that are there, both internally and externally. You see, for example, when the president goes out there and gets sick for the job. So the same job, for example, determine their catalog gaps. So that if you meet the criteria, you meet the job description. So the government also needs to improve the information.
Get awareness. Yeah, because sometimes the structures exist. Because I agree with you. Sometimes the structures exist, but do people really know they exist?
You know, we can maybe create such enlightenment to people.
So you see when you mention like that now, the National Employment Authority, that is the body. So I think that such a body exists. Sometimes the government might be good in terms of structure, but they fail in communication. So if they have these bodies, they need to have awareness kind of conversations, or putting it out there in terms of ads, putting it out there in a way or in target groups. And if they are onboarding such kind of stuff in regards to career development in universities, colleges, and all that, they get to inform the workforce that is this criteria of work that you can do outside the country, that you can get benefit, but there are these laws, there are these procedures that you need to follow. So with that, I think that on a fair ground, and if everyone is playing their part, the agencies also have their part in playing us facilitating this, because some people go through this and they benefit. There are also agencies that ideally are not. So we can't say it's a black and white thing.
It's not a blanket.
Yeah, so as long as we get to know more of the bad agencies and make sure that more agencies are strengthened and all these structures are strengthened, then we have a fairly good chance of being on the map. The other nations contribute back to all the
Let me add something to it. Regarding the same. So let me at this point introduce our last session, which again, if you are not careful, you cannot clear the flesh of it and say that this particular city. But we just try to hit the main point. It's about brain drain. When we say brain drain, our thoughts ultimately think about the professional side of things, but even their professional skill levels also that category. Maybe I can hear your take on it. Does the government need to strike a balance? Okay, that we are expecting 100,000. What will be the impact on the economy here? The jobs that they are going to offer that side.
I think the standard of our nation as this big, we don't have any impact of that.
Really?
Yes.
Cutting across both professionally and
You know what?
formally.
You know what? And I've done something.
Okay, that's it.
So, the government has seen a way.
So we're only looking at the government trying to look there and gaining taxes. No, that's one angle. So if you look at the other side of it, we talked about China, that they are developing these crazy roads. Look at America. There's this guy who's called John F. Kennedy. When you start saying that, don't look at what America, look at what America. So we are, as a productive citizen and as a productive nation, we should look at how do we ensure that in the confines of Kenya we develop. What can a Kenyan do with their own brain to make Kenya better? Where we are seated here, this is an architectural point. There's someone who sat and thought of it. That's what we have in this video. They have built it, they have contributed to this. If we are not careful, we might take all these brains that will be doing something to this extent, other countries, and we remain with, to some extent, the lack of a better word, average kind of labor force that can only do as much. So, as much as we want to see opportunities out there, what you're talking about, Jeff, is that we need to have some kind of a balance. We need to strike a balance. That we have, even if we are having 100,000 doctors every year, good doctors, 100,000 engineers, 100,000, whichever profession, teachers, nurses, aides, and all that, whichever profession that we have, experts within whichever field. We need to have experts. I don't need to. If you are, and now Jeff is an environmentalist expert. He's not supposed to be designing systems for the people in EU and making EU better and making this better. Yes, we are looking at the potential yet and what better as a country. But what about us as a country? We've been talking about development of Africa, development of Kenya. Why don't we have such systems in Kenya and Africa? It's because the best brains, you find that some innovative ideas. There's a guy who came up with I think this 2FA, two-factor authentication. He was living abroad in the US. He came up with this concept, went and patented that state, and was granted that patent. When by the time people are catching up to 2FA, is now receiving royalties out of this because they find that you have to pay that cost. There's something around that he built. When he got that money, he gave back to Kenya, he built a good hospital, he built kind of infrastructure around his home area in that their own areas. So that's the exit that we get for taking that kind of thing outside. But also, we need to see that Kenya as it is rich. If we build systems that ensure that a Kenya, a doctor in Kenya, or an expert, whichever level in Kenya, wishes to see that they contribute the benefit of Kenya, rather than just outside, that we will retain them. I don't think that as Kenya we lack the capacity to be able to retain the workforce. It's only that we lack the existing infrastructure. Because how do you get jobs outside? How do you get jobs outside the country? How do these countries get where they are? There's industrialization. We are agricultural. We say like around, if I'm not wrong, a good percentage, not 17%, a good percentage of our GDP is contributed by agriculture. But if you look at general, if you look at coffee processing, coffee is a $14 billion market. The farmer gets only $2 billion out of that supply chain. What we should be arguing about is how do we increase the value addition of whatever we have, or whatever resources, if it's human resource. How can we ensure that? Because the government is spending a lot of, if you look at a good percentage of our budget, the last budget I think was like around 700 billion being spent on education. We are spending this money to ensure that we have a good workforce, to ensure that we develop Kenya, not to take that force outside there. The intent is that if we have a teacher, is teaching people in Kenya to be better professionals. But if you're teaching people to be better professionals with a physicist, but there are no structures for these physicists yet to develop themselves. There are structures for there are no structures for these different professions that are there in the country. These people will inevitably look for opportunities out there. Because those countries created those opportunities. How do we create those opportunities? Looking at the systems, you have to look at how do we industrialize. How do we get more? Because when we industrialize a country, you don't need to move outside there if there's work, ready work, teaching more professional people. If we have more workforce required in terms of labor, more professions required in terms of cost. If right now you're going to work either for the most part people are going to work either formal or informal. They are moving. They are providing something of practice or some product. The same way the one works, we have products here that we can do. Jeff was talking about mine. Why can't we exhaust those kind of opportunities? We develop machinery. Right now we know of a car that is being developed. There's a car that is trying to develop in Kenya. But it fell out from Kenya 1 up to now. It's not that well. Half of the things that we have as Kenya is produced outside. From clothing, from machinery, from whatever we have. It's produced outside. If we start seeing, we have to produce our own. The money that we are pouring outside, the money buying things out of the money. But if we have more money, we tend to get more money by increasing production. By industrializing our own economy. We won't have as much. Now it will be a question of preference that there is industries in Kenya. But I rather work in another country than work in Kenya. But it doesn't mean that there's no opportunity. Right now we are speaking from the point where there's a deficit of opportunity.
I'm sure you the West East or even out of us yearning to come to Kenya. Because currently one of the five that the West countries tracks of work taking international students. They identify really learning by your journey the education, they tap into your skills. They make sure that the skills that you have, thank you for them. What do you think as a student and do to do the same thing to make country attractive so that there are people from Nigeria who want to come to Kenya also not only to work but to learn. After learning, they require and get the requisite skills and practical. Someone learning to come to Kenya, making us that attractive. It's not much of a labor system.
Okay. It is tough question. Because technology wise, development wise, that's the meaning.
To elaborate on that one, never seems to
No, just click on it. It's okay. It's not my perspective. Development wise, the only thing we can sell of all is gold. If you think about that, old school, right? Now, let us tell our country, either as government or as citizen, through content. Okay?